So before I do the intro thing and all that, I want to I'll scroll through the Instagram and I'll try to find something a bit fun and light and fluffy to talk about.
Yeah.
But I guess pressing matters is I'd maybe want to talk about the housing thing briefly. That's not as light and fluffy.
Picket? Yeah.
Yeah, because saw it on the Instagram and I was like, oh, that is something that I'm kind of concerned about because it's people's houses, there's a whole community thing going on there. And then they're just being sort of moved out without warning in some aspects. But yeah, so I wanted to go down and see what it is and I talked to people on the day.
Yeah.
So I know it's not light and fluffy, but if you wanted to briefly talk about it or something, or if
absolutely.
that's too heavy to start.
No. I'm happy to speak about that. So basically, we were made aware of by public housing residents that there was news of workers coming in with hazmat suits. And
it wasn't a prank.
No, and it wasn't a prank. And that was pretty much the extent of the information. So as you can imagine, with the history of the public housing towers during lockdown, rightly so, the families that are still remaining at these public housing towers were in the dark, essentially, about what was happening.
Yeah.
And so for us, our values around social justice, equity and fairness is standing with, public housing residents who have been treated with such, indignation, disrespect, and, with that lens of power from the government and the way that they do things and the engagement of families who are predominantly from culturally diverse communities.
Yeah.
The disempowering journey for them in this whole process since the announcement of the demolition of public housing towers, they the public housing rally last year really showed solidarity to public housing residents that you're not alone. And so for us with this community picket at a moment's notice, mobilizing the community to stand with families of public housing residents was an important call that we could not ignore once we had this information in front of us. And so it was very last minute, but we knew that the reasons why we're doing it were right. It was to be with community. It was with permission and consent of the community as well, like the families that were still there. It wasn't a case of us charging in and saying, hey, we know what's best for you. We're going to we're not saviors here.
Because that's the worst thing to do.
No, absolutely not.
Because it's kind of insulting in some aspects,
And also you're not sharing power with community when you do that. Yeah. This is a community that has been over-consulted and treated with disdain by, government officials or the government itself. And it's high time that their voices are centered and amplified in this process.
And actually contributing towards the process.
Yeah. And the government said the demolition was not going to happen until the towers were empty. There are still lots of families in there. So why is this happening? And why is it okay for workers in hazmat suits to walk into a building and all the residents get is close your doors, close your windows? There's no sense of safety in that.
Yeah.
No sense of trust.
Are the doors fully sealed? Is there dust going underneath?
We don't even know. The residents didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
So for them to be left in the dark and out in the cold like that speaks volumes about this government and the way they treat public housing families.
Yeah.
So that's why it was important for us to be there with them and have their consent and their voices centered.
No, because I just thought it was a quick turnaround. That's all. And I thought that was exciting in its sense. The power
too. The power of the people.
Yeah, you spoke about it, and then there was another MP. I can't remember her name.
It was Gab.
I think
Gabrielle
so.
Devitri.
Yeah, Gabrielle. Yep, that's the one. Yep.
Gab is our housing spokesperson. Yeah.
So she was there. And then because I was on the way to work, so it's on the way. So I thought I'd stop in at 7. There's already a group going, and I was like, that's pretty good. And then she's turned up, and then everyone's sort of huddling around and working out and discussing what's going on. I was trying to talk to other people about to get more information on it on the ground.
Yeah.
I know that some people weren't fully aware of all the things that were involved, but they just saw that there was a level of injustice.
Yes.
And they want to be there and help.
That's right.
There was this other guy who was very nice, and I thought it was funny. He was from the socialist thing, and then he goes, "Oh, would you like to buy a paper?" I was like, "That's not very socialist." But anyway, that's
that's another thing that's happening.
Yeah. But anyway, but no, there was a family that came out, and they like the father and son and the 2 children, and he said, "Oh, thank you everyone for being here." So I thought that was pretty sweet.
And that Monday morning, there were a few of the...
Oh, the Monday you were there, yeah.
Yes.
Because I poked in on Tuesday morning.
Yes, that's right. I wasn't there Tuesday morning, but Monday morning, there was a few of the families that were there at the entrance of 33 Alfred Street, and we went up to them and asked them, is it okay? Can we do this? How do you feel about it? Is it something you're comfortable with? And they were like, yes.
Yeah.
So, of course,
it's welcomed. It's not.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's right.
And then there was a funny moment. Gabrielle, she's like speaking to the group, and then someone hands her a megaphone, and then she didn't even turn it on yet, but she naturally just got louder. I just thought that was funny. I just wanted to point that out. If she's listening,
awesome.
Your voice just naturally got louder, holding it, not even speaking into it.
Love that.
So I guess welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders such as yourselves connect with experienced politicians, gaining insights and inspiration for your own political journeys. We're here today with Anasina Gray. Oh my God, Barberio. Oh, no.
You're close. Anasina Gray Barberio.
Barberio. All right.
My husband is Italian.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it was Italian.
Yes, you're right. You're on the right track.
Sorry for that flustered introduction.
No problem.
You are a member of the Victorian State Council, Legislative Council.
Correct.
Other than my butchered introduction there, how would you best introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Anasina. I'm your local Greens MP for Northern Metro. And I'm here to listen to you and amplify your voice. And let's, change the way politics looks.
Big goal. Big intro.
Yeah, it's a very big goal. But I think we're at a point now in the political landscape where the status quo just doesn't cut it anymore, where you've got political representatives that are not representative of the communities, of their constituents, of their electorates. And if we are going to expect change or want change, then I think we do have to have a sense of courage and boldness in the way that we work, in the way that we centre people's experiences and also what they need in their lives, because there's lots of people struggling out there.
Yeah.
And,
they're not being represented.
Yeah. And if we're just applying the same solutions and expecting, a different change to that, you can't be surprised if people are just turning around and just becoming more and more disillusioned and more disengaged and disconnected from politics, from the political landscape, let alone even aspiring to becoming, a political figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's perfect. That's great. All right. So I guess that's the current. So let's jump back a bit.
Yeah.
To life before. So before politics, what were you up to? What did a normal day look like for you back then?
Yeah. My journey started in aviation a very long time ago. I worked as a cabin crew. I worked in ground crew at the airport in different roles. Worked for a helicopter company. Worked for a seaplane company. So I've always been around aviation prior to having children. And then when I had kids, I knew that I wanted to move into a different space where I feel like my values of service and reciprocity that I grew up with as a young Samoan teenager who had just moved here to Australia would be better served. And then I got into community services and found myself working in homelessness with young people at risk of homelessness, middle-aged men facing homelessness, family violence, and just these areas in our pockets in our society that are just so overlooked, and where voices are not invisible, are invisible, and just finding ways to advocate for, more opportunities for them, equality of opportunities.
What's a rough timeline there? Is it were you a child in Samoa and then you moved here? Or
Correct. Yeah, I was born in Samoa.
Yeah.
I started my schooling in Samoa.
Yeah.
And then I guess like most Pacific Islanders, we arrived in Australia through New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's sort of been our migration journey, and my family and I have been here now for close to 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have the accent, but
That's
don't
fine.
hold that against me.
No. Look, I don't hold it against you. I've worked with many Islander people, and it's just naturally, it's a disarming accent, I think.
Oh, okay,
You know what I mean? It's very friendly, very approachable. Yeah, off topic. I used to work in a tyre place where we'd deliver tyres and stuff, and there was one of the guys who'd be on the forklift all the time, and you'd be a bit stressed.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it, bro."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh, okay,
that's
yeah,
right.
sure,
Yeah.
okay, cool." Sorry if I did the accent there. I don't know if that's but
Oh, that's good.
he was just always the most calm guy in
Yeah.
the room. Probably because he's driving a forklift.
Yeah.
I know
that
that's
probably helps.
yeah. Okay, so moved here through New Zealand, and then went into aviation work.
Yeah, well,
doing all that sort of
I
stuff.
finished high school.
Okay, and then went and did that stuff.
Yeah, went to uni.
Not under the impression you were a child
Yeah.
flying a plane or
No.
working with planes.
No. And then went into uni and then went into aviation. And then I've been in community services now, actually I consider like the role I am, a big part of that is a service to the community.
It still is. It's an
still
extension
continuing.
of that. Yeah.
So that's probably coming up to 7-8 years as well.
Of doing that kind of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the day-to-day for that? Like,
Oh my goodness. So for example, like I worked in a COVID facility.
yeah.
Because, when everybody else was quarantining, our homeless people had nowhere else to safely quarantine.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was working in a facility with a multidisciplinary team to support our communities that were, facing homelessness, where they could safely quarantine if they got COVID or if they were waiting to see if they had COVID. And they had a safe place, shelter to come and, have their health checks done and be supported. So it was a really...
All of that's kind of necessary, whether you have a roof or not.
Yeah, but I think like a lot of people, inadvertently forget about our homeless people as well, or have preconceptions and, those stereotypical views of marginalized communities, such as our, homeless population, which is growing exponentially.
Yeah, really quick.
Really quick. And like, the highest growing cohort of homelessness is middle-aged women.
Yeah.
So that is, something that's really concerning, that trend going upwards, and that intersects with other like really important social issues like family violence as well, driving women into homelessness.
Yeah.
And this is an area that I care quite deeply about.
Like being on the streets is somehow safer than staying with your partner or... Yeah, that's upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the reality for so many women out there as well.
Sorry. Yeah. No, that is upset. I'm just, reflecting on that.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
No,
that might have been a bit too heavy too quickly.
No, don't stress.
But
it's relevant.
all these things intersect. Like it doesn't happen in silos, right?
No.
Family violence, homelessness, health issues. It's a real growing problem in our community. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I just have, I've grown up with adversities like that. And it's just, it's not, sorry, that's why it's kind of heavy. Yeah. No. Well, so then from there it was you wanted to join a political party or wanted to have your voice heard, or what was the goal?
Then the next step in the community services journey was coming out of COVID and the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on our Pacific Island diaspora in the north.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Broadmeadows, and I knew I had to do something there. A lot of our people were presenting to hospital extremely sick.
Yeah.
And the medical professionals not knowing what to do about this.
Like symptoms are more severe sort of thing?
Yeah, like presenting to intensive care. Like high numbers of our people presenting to intensive care with very severe COVID-19 symptoms.
Yeah.
And I think from that roundtable discussion with, medical professionals, once you hear something that, like you said earlier about injustice, you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I formed my community organization called Engage Pacifica.
Yeah.
And the whole mission and purpose of Engage Pacifica was to address the health disparities that exist in our health system.
Yeah. For people from your
Pacific
background.
Island, background. But, what's the disparities that exist in Pacifica diasporas, it's not an isolated thing. This is happening across culturally diverse communities, Indigenous communities. Unfortunately, it is a lot more common than I guess we would think. So I went ahead and I did that, and that brought me into the periphery of the Greens and the community building work that
So you're kind of approached? Or
well, I was in family violence.
Oh, and
so
she's also in that aspect.
Yes, and
true.
Sam was the spokesperson for family violence for the Greens.
Yeah, she spoke about that last week. And, or not last interview. I spoke to her about
through her community building work, we met through, as you do, through networking events. And then Sam and I actually, alongside some incredible migrant and refugee women, formed the Multicultural Women's Alliance Against Family Violence. And the whole purpose of that group, we're all a bunch of volunteers, really passionate about ending violence against women and children, specifically multicultural women, given the plethora of vulnerabilities that came with that, cultural nuances, visa, uncertainties and risks, dowry abuse. So that's how I came into the Greens, I guess, space through Sam's community building work.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a much needed thing. Like I've only so far really heard of the visa thing where it's like weaponized against them in a sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of disgusting, I think.
And the abuse is not just like intimate partner abuse. There's also family members as well that are abusing, victim survivors and their children. Like it's a really deep, layered,
heavy.
But
it's reality.
But this is what's happening on the ground, and this is why I advocate so strongly, because these women who fall through the gaps of the system, where do they go?
And they
where's their help and support? Yeah,
and sometimes they're not as informed as they could be of what help is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also when they do seek out support, there's like the support system and the structures that we have in place do not make way for nuances of where women's backgrounds, like cultural nuances, for example, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's communication, whether that's it takes a women more than like a dozen times to leave their partner and every time they try to, there is an extreme risk that just goes way up as well.
For their health and safety. And
for their safety. Yeah. So, even the police institution has had to make lots of changes in the way that they receive women who are coming to them with reports of family violence. There's a really huge gap there in the police force. I mean, they are addressing it, but they've got a long way to go there. And that's just one aspect of the whole structure that needs to change.
Yeah.
And recently, the government just released their budget. They've cut funding out of prevention for family violence. And the problem there is that evidence is very clear and very thick that prevention is where it's at, not at the crisis point. I mean, of course, that's important, but prevention is where you get the numbers down.
What are examples of prevention?
Well, we need to have a culturally diverse refuge, for example. We need to have programs that are culturally and community led to address these embedded norms to change the way that people think about violence. For example, in Pacifica culture, it's happening. Family violence is happening out there, but it's such a taboo subject.
No one's talking about it in those communities, or just in general?
They know it's happening, but because there's this barrier of
that's their house. That's not
exactly. I'm not going to get involved. That's their business. But we want to change those things, and the only way you change those things is governments need to understand that they can't have a one size fits all approach to this issue, because it is a large issue. And a lot of women that are dying are from culturally diverse communities, but you wouldn't see it because it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
It's not mainstream enough.
Or in some cases, not white enough.
Exactly. You said it.
Well, there we go. If I can, I'm allowed to say it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I know it's a
No,
lot
thank you for
there.
sharing all that. That's, yeah, because, like, I've had a mother who's, we've had to move a few times for certain reasons and that.
Oh,
but yeah, I get
okay.
it. Yeah. So
Yep.
that's why it's an important thing. It's a lived experience for some people, lots of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're wanting to bring right down and break that cycle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we've clearly touched on the second part, is like that need. What's that spark? What's that itch? What made you act and step up into this role? Was there like a specific moment that pushed you over the edge to get more involved, or it just was a natural progression, like you said, where it's this networking thing and it's like...
I don't think it's like ever natural, to be honest.
Yeah?
No, because like, as a young person growing up in Australia, before arriving here, I grew up with like my people all around me. And then as soon as we made that move to Australia in the late 90s, boy, all of a sudden...
Big change.
Like not just a big change, like physically, but just like now you were outnumbered.
Yeah, okay.
And so there's this real, I don't know what you call it, like this crossroads as a young Pacific Island person now. Where are your people? The only time you see your people is at church functions, right? Like I go to school on the train, on public transport, like you just didn't see your people anywhere. And, you were exposed to different cultures, which was amazing, but you just didn't have that sense of like cultural connection.
Yeah.
And then you had these other questions around like, well, what parts of me do I need to fall back on in order to belong in a school setting, in a work setting, at a tertiary level as well. So there was always that
Is that that's a heavy layer added to, because like there's a natural thing everyone does. It's like, what do I need to withhold to fit in so people don't ostracize me? But it's like that added layer of the cultural differences or that's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy. And then like you feel like you're, like I remember in high school, like I this memory is very, very clear. Probably the first few weeks in my class, I was a drama class, and they were like, "Oh, you're from New Zealand. You got the New Zealand accent." And I was like, "Oh, well I
actually.
guess so, yeah." And they're like, "Oh, can you do the haka for us?"
Yeah.
And because I was this like 14-year-old and I wanted to belong and I didn't know how to say no, I didn't have the confidence. I just thought, okay, well, I'll do it. So I did a haka.
And then from that point on, you were the haka girl.
Not just that, but it's just like, it's almost like you see this person of culture, you need to perform. Here you go.
There is a level of that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's still quite rife.
Like, there's an Italian guy make me pasta.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. But no, yeah.
So yeah, I think if I had more confidence looking back on that, I actually would have said no. So
like if what would be the source of that confidence, being able to see more people like you in the community?
Yeah, I think, a person that like is a source of my inspiration is my mum. The one that I feel has imparted so much, a big part of resilience and determination and persistence that I have, I feel has led me on this journey of, it doesn't matter if you keep getting no's. It doesn't matter if the task seems impossible or insurmountable. You just got to have grit and you just got to keep pushing because eventually it will crack.
Yep.
And eventually you will be able to break through. But whilst you're on that journey of breaking through and everything, do not forget where you come from.
Yeah.
And the values that you have grown up with as a Samoan young woman. And, I feel it in my veins, my ancestry, the women that have come before me, my grandmothers, my aunties, my older cousins. They are the ones that I draw strength on, that I feel as at every obstacle, I've only been ever able to overcome that because I feel their strength with me. So I draw on that, but I also draw on my faith as well. Like I'm a woman of faith. And I think those things have led me on this journey because believe you and me, I didn't think this, was even possible. Like, I was advocating so strongly on the other side to so many MPs, you know, when I was with Engage Pacifica, where there was early childhood equity for the only Pacific Island playgroup in the north.
Yeah.
That started off with 3 families. Now they've got like probably 20 families. You
It's
know,
a real community now, yeah.
Yeah, and they've just taken it off, and, you know, that's community empowerment where I feel my role is to find the opportunities, listen to the community, what they want, facilitate it, and step out, because people have power.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to, like,
Put that spark in there and help start it up.
Yeah, just show them like what they're capable of. They've always had it in them.
Yeah.
And it's not my job, like, to continue it. It's my job to step to the side and let them lead it.
I get it. Yeah.
How they want to.
I'm waiting for someone to take this over.
I think you're doing a great job, so you don't need that.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's a great, because some people just don't, like.
Some people don't know when to step to the side.
Or how to start in general.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That as well.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
It can be isolating sometimes.
Yeah,
Don't know how to start it, and then someone goes, "Oh, well, here's this and put them together." It's how I deal with parties. You know,
I think you just need to take one step.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's very overwhelming, because exactly like you said, where do I even start?
Yeah.
But I think you just got to take one step and just take it day by day.
Yeah.
I think it's really important as well, and just establish what your mission is. Like, what is it that you want to achieve out of a project, or your goals, your vision for aspirations for yourself, and back yourself 100. Like, I just think sometimes systems, you know, the messaging, the labels will endeavor to push you down or tell you, like, you don't belong here. No, this is not for you.
I'm pretty sure you're the haka girl over there.
You need exactly the haka girl.
Yeah.
I think your place is on that lane.
Yeah. But
I think, you know, standing firm in who you are is going to really place you well on your journey, whatever that looks like.
That's a soundbite right there. I nearly swore, but that's a soundbite right there.
Oh, really?
That's going to be great. We're going to post that on Instagram. So I guess there is no, like, the whole progression, the natural thing was driving you towards this social justice, incorporating or actually sticking true to multiculturalism in this country, you know, all that sort of stuff, right? That was the overall thing. And then taking the leap, taking a position in government at the moment, you know, what made you actually go for it? You know, what made you put your hand up?
Because I was on the other side.
Yeah. So because you spoke on that.
The other side around, like, policies, and how policies that are meant to help, like, alleviate disadvantage, policies that are, like, in theory are meant to, like, equalize, like, the playing field.
Like, bring equity to society.
Was not happening at all. Like, I was advocating to MPs, and they were just like, "Oh, yeah, okay, just let us know when you've got, like, a community event." No.
And
We're not a symbolic token celebratory tool where you turn up for your obligatory photographs. You're in a very powerful position to advocate for change. At least that's what my thought
of what it should be compared
to it should be versus the reality of what it is.
Yeah. So, like, would it be maybe both of those things? You know, maybe they come in, have a meeting, talk with the officials of the program, and actually take notes. As silly as it might be, just literally listen and write things down, and then earn your photography moment, sort of thing. That's a better. Yeah, that'd be a better thing to do.
You know, and I think, like, the way relationships are conceptualized, you know, when there is, like, a power divide, I think also determines how those relationships are formed. Like, are they relationships to get votes?
Yeah.
Are they relationships to actually nurture trust in the community, so that when you call on this community, they'll be there to back you? You've got leverage, you've got trust. And we've been building lots of relationships, like really meaningful relationships, you know, in public housing. In public housing with different, like, multicultural communities.
Yeah.
You know, that's been such a big, like, I'd done that so much in various roles before I arrived here. Yeah. And also growing up, you know, with my parents giving in their work giving back to the community has really exposed me at such a young age to what service looks like.
So there's a real backlog of that experience and actually engaging with community. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that it's not something I take advantage of. I'll make that clear.
Yeah,
because,
good.
Once you start to get complacent, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you don't bring that kind of lens where like, oh, I've done this before, I'll be fine, I know how to do it. It's like, no, actually, I think there's a real sense of cultural humility that needs to be taken when you are approaching communities, whichever community that is.
Yeah.
And communities feel that. They can see through the BS as well when
we spoke about that on the phone. It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, people like communities are not stupid, although some MPs would like to think that they are.
Yeah.
And you can hear it directly from the communities, this kind of sentiment. They know when someone is there because they genuinely want a meaningful connection and when they're just there for their socials.
Yeah. Bloody Instagram. Bloody Instagram. We're going to clip that though.
Algorithms.
That's going to sound good. Yeah, so it was like some of the word of advice that I've heard from previous interviews is it's like rather than being outside the tent screaming, why not get in there?
Yes.
And actually make change within. Yeah?
Absolutely.
It's essentially that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And you've got to lead with community.
Yeah.
I know that, the term co-design and co-create has been, thrown around, a lot. But they're like when you peel that back a bit, that's a community development concept that is really important. And I think that a lot of organizations that I've seen put it on their annual reports and things like that. But when it comes to the actual operationalizing of that, they fall short.
Shame. So we'll transition. Now you're in. Actually, if you wanted to talk about it, because it was Sam stepping down from the Senate.
That's right.
To go pursue the seat of Wills.
Correct.
Got bloody close.
I know.
Impressive.
Oh, so close.
And then there was like who's going to take that position in the Greens, was it?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Leading up to the election sort of thing?
So that was last year.
Yeah, okay.
That was last year. It was leading up to the council elections last year. Yeah.
I guess if it's not too showing how the sausage is made, what's the process like within the party? When someone goes, I'm going to step down, and then who's going to fill that position?
Yeah. Well, I can only speak from my experience.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's all right. Like, you don't have to explain every party.
Yeah, no.
Just your experience would be helpful enough.
My experience was that, Sam had told the party that she was stepping up to Wills, and so obviously her position was up for preselection.
Yep. And
that is open to all members that would like to put their hand forward for that. And I was one of those people that put my hand up and wanted to pursue this, not knowing, like there was no certainty around like, I'm a shoo-in and stuff. Absolutely not. I had
not
to work
taking it
hard.
for granted.
Not taking it for granted. I mean, anything, really, any opportunity, at least for myself, that I've like tried to grasp and hunt for is, I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. And maybe that's like growing up in Brody where, opportunities were scarce. You really had to be resourceful around, how do you get around these barriers? You had to be resourceful and creative and innovative in like how you could be part of, be around the table, for example, the decision-making table. You had to really show why you are the one that they had to choose, that you were the one right for like the role.
Less waiting for the opportunity, is more making it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Creating it. You had to be the one to go out and create because nothing, as a Brody girl was going to be given to you for free.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. No, all right. So then with that, it's just like I think I've heard within the party or the party room with the Greens, it's just everyone has a discussion until it's unanimous sort of thing.
No, it's
an actual voting thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. That's right.
Misconception there.
Yeah. No. It's all the members have the power to vote who they want.
Oh, the actual members, not
Greens members.
Yeah, Greens members,
Yeah.
After the campaigning and the policy and all that, blah, blah, blah. That's probably not the best thing to put into question, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, what were the biggest things you had to learn fast once coming into this position?
Oh, it was, I don't know if you know much about the backstory, but there's, processes that you have to go through before everything is officialized in the chamber. Like in Parliament.
Before you even get to do the inaugural speech.
Before you even get to open your mouth essentially and stuff. So we had to follow those protocols. But leading up to my first speech, we requested of the chamber if we could have members of my community sing me in, but actually be in the chamber, like up in the gallery.
Yep.
And there was a lot of to and fro between members of the chamber, and they outright denied it. And it was just a whole kerfuffle around it. And there was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was quite stressful as well. But also the boundaries put around it was just really, it was obvious to me wow, there's a lot of assertion of power before I even have the opportunity to say anything. And I think for me, I thought that was going to come once I was in it, not before I made my official, opportunity.
So there's already that point of, yeah, okay.
And it was stressful. It was very stressful.
Yeah. Would have been kind of first Samoan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Especially for the first one.
Yeah, I think so. It was very special.
A nice magical intro jingle sort of thing. It would have been nice, right? Once you've done your speech, which I've read through it, lovely. Powerful stuff. Good backstory there. Not that it's a competition. I'm just...
I appreciate that.
No, because I do research.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you do.
It might not seem like it.
No, not at all.
Once you're in, what other things other than that first hurdle?
Oh, gosh.
What other things do you have to get up to speed with,
Well, just how everything works, like in the chamber, standing orders, policies coming through from the lower house to the upper house, like getting your head around all the different protocols as well. The timings, for when we speak, like, for example, on an adjournment, the time limits. So learning, to really hone in on getting the message across, but sticking within the constraints of or the established timelines was really interesting at the parliamentary side of things. But when I feel like I hit the ground running, because we did events as well, in Parliament as well. It's really hectic during sitting weeks in Parliament. There are things that you've obviously planned for, but there's also lots of things that happen in and around Parliament as well. Lots of events going on amongst the parliamentary work that you're doing.
I'm trying to juggle all that?
Yes, trying to juggle all of that too, yeah.
Okay.
And that's just in sitting week. And then you think, okay, well, that is the busiest, but I also find non-sitting week extremely busy because we want to be out in community. I want to be out in the community to meet community members, meet community organizations and various other organizations doing incredible work and finding ways that, we can be helpful, that's beneficial to them, amplify and spotlight their work and bringing it into, Parliament.
Better than being in the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you stay grounded, I think.
Yeah.
Is you make sure that you are always connected in community. And I think that makes for more informed policy making as well when you're engaged in your Northern Metro electorate, which is, as you've seen, a huge one.
Yeah, we just looked at the map.
That's right.
Yeah, I was saying it before. It's like you see it on the computer screen and your screen doesn't go big enough. Yeah. But then having the full wall, full length, goes
really
all the way from Richmond all the way up to Ulan.
Yes, correct.
And yeah, huge diversity there.
Huge diversity.
Was it what you expected, or did reality hit a bit differently once you got into the office?
It's just way busier than I thought, to be honest. I knew it's not like I didn't think it was going to be. Of course, I thought it was going to be busy. But there is a huge demand on your time and attention. So it's really important to be able to prioritize and be strategic in the way that you, give your attention to issues, because there are always going to be issues that are going to pop up that you've planned for and also haven't planned for.
Things change on a dime.
Yeah.
Like the housing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we were meant to have a phone call Monday and that just popped up and it happens.
Right.
Don't stress.
That's the nature of it, right? Yeah. And just being flexible to that, I think, is really important. Like, this job is not a rigid 9 to 5 role at all.
No.
Like, work weekends, there's evening work.
Okay.
And on Monday,
if you're actually doing your job, it's a bit like that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So,
depending on parts of your community who are available or what comes through. Yeah,
and the thing is, you got to work around the community, not the community working around you.
Yep.
That's really important to and sometimes that's why, the community may only meet in the evening after hours, because that's when the community have come home from work and, other commitments. So you got to be flexible to those nuances as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all those stresses, but they make it look like a room full of cool cats. Just
there's a lot that's happening
behind the scenes,
in front of the scenes and behind the scenes.
Because when you watch it on the computer and you can see on the computer anyway, when you watch the week, I don't know, what is it?
Sitting week?
The sitting week.
Yeah.
They broadcast it on the internet, and when you watch it, you're like, oh, they seem really cool, and they're reading their paper, and that's what I'm trying to do.
And there are changes. There are changes right up until you stand up and speak. So you've got your sheet that you've obviously prepared in advance,
and then someone's squiggling on it.
Well, that's usually you. Like, it's me. Like, I'm going through it. I'm like, no, actually, I don't quite like the sound of that, or I might want to change. And you're just doing edits right up until you just don't see. I've always got a pen.
Yep.
Although I don't have paper, but I'm always scribbling.
We can get you some.
No, it's fine.
But so even I think I've even seen it sometimes where people get handed a piece of paper in some cases.
Yes.
It's like that.
That's right.
While you're speaking. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So when it comes to speaking up about those sorts of things, how does that work? Like, not everyone's allocated specific time, or you have to. How do you book? Do you book time to speak in house?
Yeah, no. So you get allocations like the crossbench. So us, the Greens, will get allocation, and then we have things like constituency questions that we can ask. So that could be anything to do with that issue that a constituent in Northern Metro has brought to your attention via phone or email.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you have a member statement. So a member statement is where you can talk about anything. It could be an event that you went to. It could be like a matter that is really pressing that you want to bring and put on public record.
Yeah.
Then you can ask a question of the minister of any portfolio of the government.
Yeah.
And that we call that a question without on notice. So they don't know what question we're going to be asking.
Yeah. Okay.
And you have time limits on how long you can ask these questions as well.
They sound like the fun questions. You catch people off guard.
Yeah, but also like you want like an answer, an authentic answer from the minister, because it is an issue that is really important to so many people, enough to bring to your attention,
to bring to
elevate.
House, yeah.
That's right. So you hope that the minister will address it and answer it, as authentically and as much as they can. And then, so that whoever's brought it to your attention, whether it's an individual or group of people or an organisation, we can send it back to them like, hey, this is the answer that we got back. Let me know if this is satisfactory, if you want us to keep pushing and advocating for more.
Is it, that's not the only opportunity, is it? Or that's a good public way to do it?
No, it's a good public way.
There is the door kind of opens a bit more where you can just directly speak to the ministers, obviously, or
you can
cabinets
request
as well if you want to.
Yeah, you can request.
And then book a meeting and then talk with them about things.
You're really at the whim of their availability and I don't know, their willingness to meet with you as well. So you can definitely request that. But in terms of timeframes, you wouldn't know when that will exactly happen.
Which might not be adequate enough for
if there's
the person who's asked the question. Yeah, okay.
That's right.
No, I was just curious. I was just curious. So,
no, it's good. And we also have adjournments. So adjournments are usually at the end of the sitting day, where you can ask a minister where you're seeking specific action from them.
Are they notified ahead of time on that one?
No, so that's
another opportunity.
It's another opportunity to bring a really important issue to light. So the last sitting week, with the rise of far-right extremism. I did a adjournment to the Premier around, it's so important to address this, racial spew levels rising in our community and how her and her government needs to stamp it out. So those are adjournments serve really good purposes as well.
Okay.
Issue on Gaza with Palestine, same thing, advocating to the Premier to advocate to her federal colleagues, you need to sanction Israel.
Yeah.
So there are ways that the Greens will find a way to try and bring, a really important issue to light.
You guys meet every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, whatever. So then that's an opportunity to speak about something if it's a federal issue. And then what do they have a cabinet meeting? The Senate, the Premier and the Prime Minister, they have a meeting every week or something? Or every 2 weeks?
Sure.
So then she can maybe bring that up. It's this whole flow-on thing. It's the whole point. You guys have been voted in to talk about these things. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Exactly.
Anything else to add? Or have I missed anything? Or what do you reckon? Is there anything else you think that should be shared?
No, so those are parliamentary tools that, we can use to spotlight an issue that, is of public interest, like family violence, you can bring those things to the chamber and put it on public record, and anybody can access that on the Parliament website.
It's on the website. Look it up.
Look it up on the website.
Good. Everything's there. It's ridiculous.
And even our actual sittings are live.
Yeah, they are. If a backbencher farts, you can hear it. It's there. What has been the toughest part of the journey so far, entering politics? Whether it's, don't have to get too personal, but if it's personal stuff or the career-wise or the job-wise or time management or whatever it is, just...
Yeah, I think right now, I'm a mum and my kids are still young. I think juggling, work commitments as well as your family commitments, is still something that I'm trying to juggle so that, I'm able to, have that attention to my family, which I care about deeply and is, a big part of who I am and very important to me. Because if my family is doing okay, that, allows me to do my job, well as well. So there's always that tension, which is, I find is really hard. So I'm always trying to okay, what's happening here with work-wise, and then go to my other calendar on my phone, which is all my personal commitments,
how do they
taking
clash?
my kids, to soccer or parent interviews, my son just this week, jarred his fingers or x-ray, and there's always things happening.
That life still happens.
Life still happens as a mum when you're in this role. And this is not, exclusive to me. We've got so many incredible political figures out there that are also mums that, are juggling this reality. And that's just the same with all working mums,
just any job. I was about to say
all
that. It's
working mums are constantly juggling.
It's you've gone, all right, I'm a mother, I got a job, and, maybe regularly it might be a 9 to 5 or something. And then you go, all right, let's make this harder.
Yeah.
Let's be a representative or a Senate member, that's great. And then, I don't know. There's just...
I think that, to be honest, and I think there's something there about, I speak for myself, is mum guilt. It just never stops, to be honest. I'm always feeling I've had to leave early, for example. Usually sitting weeks, I leave home pretty early because I want to beat the traffic, but I also just want time for myself before the day starts.
Yeah.
It's almost meditational, just, emotional preparation, mental preparation. I like that.
There's that moment in the car just to...
Yeah, just in the morning at the start of your day where you're just, glass of water or a coffee and you're just sitting there for 20 minutes, half an hour, mentally going through, okay, what do I need to do today? Make sure that I'm on top of it. So
I should try that. That sounds good.
Yeah, it
does. Okay. All right. So just having that juggle, finding it, striking a balance.
I find it really, really hard, and that's just me.
Yeah.
But hopefully, it does get easier with experience. I don't know. We'll see.
I suppose it would. Surely.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's a great, lovely answer. That'll help some people, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm a parent, I could never represent my community in such a way. I'm busy being a parent.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, no, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being a parent shouldn't hold you back from things.
No, I think so.
If you're
and
aware.
I just think like there's always been like, what do you call it? Like battle as well, but like that society or the system has set up to pit women against each other. I feel whether it's working women versus stay-at-home women. Like for me, it's like do whatever makes you happy, your family happy. Like that choice is completely up to you as a woman, and women should not be judged or like demonized for choosing one over the other. It doesn't matter which one you do. Like, you know, when my kids were really tiny, I was a stay-at-home mum, you know, and I was in a very fortunate position to be that when they were babies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I totally like encourage women, whatever choice you make, do you.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way. There's no rule book, and there shouldn't be any judging
That's it.
on anyone by anyone.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's fellow women or other men or society as a whole. There shouldn't
Society
be
as a whole.
There shouldn't be that. Yeah. Oh, you did it that way, did you? Yeah, there shouldn't be.
Yeah.
No, that'll be insightful for people. There you go. So I think you mentioned it earlier, you know, trying to stay connected with your community. What are some examples, or how do you stay connected with your community, or to who you were before even entering politics? You know, what are some of the things you do?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, like my faith is something that keeps me connected to the ground as well as to community. My family, my church family as well keeps me connected to the community, and me making sure, like being proactive as well, like, you know, because the job is busy, you know, so I have to, you know, initiate and make sure that I stay connected, whether it's like a collective group that I was a part of, like a Pacific Island collective group that I was a part of prior to arriving here, whether it's, like I said, my family is so important, like my extended family, and just being connected to them is really helpful for me. And I feel like sometimes when I'm not as connected, I can feel it. Like I feel unsteady.
Yeah.
I feel like my spirit is a little bit wavering. And so for me, that tells me like, okay, you need to center yourself again.
Yeah.
And my culture, my people, my family, my faith helps me be centered and remain centered and keep my spirit strong, because, you know, this job is really, you know, it can be quite tough. Despite what you see. It can weigh on you.
And you don't have to do it alone.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, you know, the whole village mentality, I mean, that's how I grew up. Like I wasn't just raised by my parents. I was raised by my grandmothers and literally a village. Yeah. Like back in the islands.
Yeah. No, I get it. I've had like neighbors and friends' mums and stuff like that would help look after you. I get it. Yeah. It is important. Yeah. And not to distance yourself too much from it or lose sight of that foundational.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tenets and principles of who you are. Like it doesn't mean you can't, you're not open to other, I guess, principles and, you know, values. It just means that you know, these are your roots as well. Yeah. You know, you want to stay true to your roots and who you are and not sort of, I guess, travel too far away from that.
No matter how big your district region is
I know.
that you represent, don't travel too far.
Don't travel too far in a philosophical way.
Yeah, I know. No, that's good. Keep the foundation strong. Staying connected to your personal community as well. I think that's not spoken about enough. As well as, I guess, the community in sense of your electorate as well.
Yes.
How do you, what's the process of trying to stay connected to that? Because you mentioned earlier, it's like actually go to the meetings.
Yes.
Where, you know, a certain community organisation might be meeting after hours. And
that's
then
right.
Speak to them, not just for the photo. Yep. But how do you juggle that, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I think like for example, like I grew up further north of Bow Street there. So building connections with the community also means that you're going to be the one, like you cannot wait for communities to come to you.
Yeah.
You've got to go out and be proactive and introduce yourself to the community, make a time when it's suitable for them, and like meet with the community leaders, community influencers and role models, youth leaders. Like you've got to be quite holistic, I think, in your approach when you're meeting new communities in your electorate, whether that's like established communities, emerging communities, understanding that, for example, in Hume, our GA takes in a lot of like new arrivals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, understanding who your community is, given that Northern Metro electorate, as you said, is
diverse
huge
and
and lots of distinctions along the way. Like you got to study your community and you got to know who is out there. And the only way you do that is by putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And being quite intentional with how you do that, not just some like, hey, this is,
There's the address.
who
you know
I
where to,
am.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, and how do we bring a decolonized lens in the work that we do? Like, yes, this is known as an electorate office. At my office warming, as part of decolonizing lens, and our approach at this office is like, this is a community office.
Yeah.
This is open to the community. Like, if you've got small organizations that don't have a meeting place, don't have the money for it, hey, right here, where we're sitting right now, they can come in during the day working hours and meet.
Yeah.
We've got a community pantry out there because we know there are parts of Northern Metro electorate that are really doing it tough. And there are also parts of Northern Metro that are doing okay. And we've only had to stock it once, this community pantry, because the kindness and generosity of the community.
Other people top it up. It's a whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Like we are so thankful and grateful for the kindness of members of our community that are happy to, give a little to others that are not, doing too well. So
that's really sweet. I'm going to cry too. That's good. That's it. Yeah. Sorry.
No, like it's just that, like I really see the position that we are in. When you're from community, you understand these things in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
And so when you're in this position, I feel like we should be paying it forward. We should be giving back in ways that we can, whenever we can too.
Yeah.
Not just one-offs. It could be just small gestures.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I have a habit of just buying the homeless guy, like when they sit out the front of the Woolies, just buying a banana.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just seems like
That's kindness.
Yeah.
That's kindness, and I think we need more of that.
I'm going to edit that out.
It's okay.
Because I don't want it to come across that way. No, it's easy. And then, anyway. Yeah, just buy an extra banana or two. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just that, but saying hello.
Yeah, I do that.
Like,
I ask them.
Not you, but so many people just walk past without even acknowledging there's a human being sitting there.
Yeah, you see it a lot.
And for whatever reason that they're there, it doesn't matter. What matters is like you're acknowledging them as a human being and showing your humanity. And even if it's just like, hey, have you had lunch today? Can I get you some food? Like exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. It's not always a banana. I'm not just like, here you go.
No.
But no,
like,
I know what you mean.
The fact that you're thinking of that person is really generous.
Yeah. No, it is actually. They're really nice people. They're people. The
stories are incredible.
Yeah. I had one guy who I was like, how's your day? And he started beatboxing it. I was like, okay, then, sure. That's how you're going to tell it.
That's so good.
I guess 2 more questions and then I'll get you. Oh my God. How do you think you've changed since getting into office, or haven't changed at all, or it's still early days, or what?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you are in this position, you realize, my goodness, you can escalate things a lot quicker, and that you can have an impact on people's lives in a way that you thought, like, I don't know, I just didn't think that I would be able to have an impact. Like one of my staff members was talking about her family's journey coming here, and how, like, for example, like our staff meeting, how a letter of support to somebody who is at risk of homelessness or is living in really unlivable housing conditions, how a letter of support from myself, or like, an MP's letter of support to the minister can try and move things along. And we actually had a case where a letter of support did escalate a constituent's housing conditions, and they were able to be moved to a safer housing because of it. And you just think, oh, goodness me, like that is like the power of a position that you can escalate that. Like I didn't think of it. Like, you know, like I just thought, but I will add that does not happen in all cases.
Yeah. But it's worth at least trying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, and our team always trying to figure out how can we help this person? And if we get this response, what is another way that we can help, knowing that, you know, our resources are also finite and limited as well, but always trying to do our best with what we have.
Yeah, okay. So that's how you've changed, realizing that.
Well, realizing like, holy crap, like this position of power, like of being an MP is a powerful position.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how can we steer this to accelerate, if we can, or expedite an issue for somebody
that can make a difference?
Yes, that can have an impact on somebody's life. Like that's pretty powerful stuff that I didn't think that you can have an impact like that.
Yeah. Be careful, this thing's loaded.
But like,
okay.
Maybe that's just my own, you know, lack of knowledge of how these things can help people. But coming to realize, okay, well, you know, how else can we be like more helpful to affect change as well? Yeah.
No matter how small this issue might seem comparatively, but like it's just something. It's something that
and that, you know, so many people out there are just suffering pretty hard and pretty badly.
Yeah.
And hence why, you know, me and my office do what we do as much as we can. We don't know what kind of impact it's going to have sometimes, but we know that we can't just sit around and stay silent and just sort of like, oh, well, that's, you know, we don't have time, or that's beyond our capability. It's like, no, we have to do something about it. Yeah.
Good. Powerful. I love it. Is the pantry thing's not common?
Is what?
Is it a common thing in other offices, the pantry?
Don't know, but I know that Max Chandler Mather, our
Brisbane guy.
Yes, he had it. So there are plenty other initiatives.
They need it in Brisbane. They're the fastest growing homeless population, or people, you know. Because I'm from Brisbane.
Are you?
Yeah, and I was just recently up there over Christmas. And
that's so cool.
Things changing very quickly there.
Yeah, wow.
And that big ugly casino right next to the government building. You're like, hang on.
Gambling, there's another issue.
Anyway,
my LGA has the highest, you know, rates of gambling.
The pokie machines and all that?
In Hume.
Yeah.
I think in the country.
Yeah, okay.
You know, but once again, socioeconomic disadvantage, let's just go in and exploit them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's an issue that we can talk about.
Maybe let's have another episode about that. I guess last final question. If you could go back to the first moment you considered entering politics, what one piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
I definitely had hesitation.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, all the like internalized, you know, self-doubt and things that you had, I guess, accumulated over, you know.
Of your life.
You know, being exposed to systemic injustice and things like that came flooding back, and really questioned whether I was even worthy of, you know, putting my hat in the ring was not something that I jumped to at all. No, I had to go away and reflect and think about this decision and the impact that it would have on my family, and talk to my family as well. Like I had to have a chat, some chats with my family around.
Like, hey, I'm going to put my hand up. What do you think?
Yeah, and like, is this right for our family?
Yeah, okay.
You know, I didn't think this was an entitled thing for me at all. Like I had to think about. So I think, you know, if I go back and think about that moment, it's just, you know, I guess reminding yourself that whatever opportunity is in front of you, that you are absolutely worthy of it. Even if it doesn't turn out in your way, just go for it. Like, Otherwise, there is a thing called regret, and you don't want to be living with the what ifs if you hadn't put your name in the ring.
Yeah.
And I think, to a lot of our Pacifica young people, I want to, and any young person out there that is struggling at the moment, like, you are absolutely worthy of opportunity, of power, of influence. Like, it's there for you, and go and occupy that space.
Love it. Beautiful. Yeah. And you'd tell that to yourself. Yeah? Back if you went back in a time machine, you'd be like, listen here.
Yeah, I definitely think that we are worthy regardless of who we are, the colour of our skin, our lived experience, our gender. Heck yeah, we deserve to occupy space. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Beautiful. No, thank you very much. I think that's the episode. We've done lovely, I think. Thank you again very much, Anasina, for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And I think that's going to chop. Done.